video, I talked about experience not equaling maturity, right? And one character that really comes to mind of showing this aspect, but more in an emotional way, is Daniel from Ugly Betty. Mind you, I watched this a long time ago, but the character popped into my mind. Like he's known as like a womanizer, and he always sleeps with all these women. Like it's always like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, stuff like that. Like that's literally his known trait. He's always sleeping with some model at any time of day, right? And it's actually kind of funny because funny or interesting, ironic, I don't know, because Betty is literally like the only woman his age that's genuinely his friend. At least from what I've watched. Literally the only woman that he doesn't like just sexualize and see as like a one night stand or friends with benefits or something like that. So anyway, I was reminded of this episode where it's like something happened that he left some really important files at a woman's house, right? And so he sends Betty to track down, like to go through the schedule, like every woman's house he slept with, like all the addresses of the women to find out where he left the important files because they need them back within 24 hours or something, right? So Betty, as usual, just doing the grunt work, literally goes to each woman's house and says, oh, like, blah, 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 whatever, right? But the whole time, it turns out he left the files at Amanda's house, right? And she felt so sad. She didn't even have the courage to come up and say, hey, you left the files at my house. Like, they're right here. I know where they are. They're safe, right? Because in that moment, she realizes that she's just Monday to him, just like the other girl was Tuesday, the other girl was Wednesday, right? Because although even from like the very beginning of season one, although they're only just like friends with benefits, he thinks she's hot, he sleeps with her, done. And it's a continual thing, right? At some point along the way, either she always liked him or she caught feelings for him, like started to genuinely like him as a human being, right? So then, oh sorry, yeah. So then, she feels really awful that like when it what is it called, that when you look on his side, it's like she's just part of the lineup for him. He doesn't even remember the women who he slept with that week. He just throws the list at Betty. He's like, okay, here's a list of addresses, like go find them quick, right? Like he can't even remember that that's who he slept with on Monday. You see what I'm saying? She honestly has love for him, whereas for him, she's just one person in the lineup. She's just forgettable. She's just like another, like, pretty body to him, you know? And I really did feel bad for her. I really did feel bad for her in that moment. But I also wanted to talk about how he definitely uses sex as a coping mechanism. Like he wants to feel something. He wants to feel connected to others, right? It's funny that that's why he sleeps around so much, but he never truly remembers them anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like he does it to like feel a void, to feel wanted, to feel needed, to feel desired, especially because of the corporate situation, like the work politics situation where he constantly has to prove himself and prove that he's worthy of the job because his dad never sees him as capable. He always sees his sister as like the front runner, the go-getter, the person who's gonna succeed the business. Like he doesn't see him, like Daniel himself, as like a worthy competitor. Like it's only very late into the series that they actually take him as a serious contender, like a serious inheritor, because he proves his competence. No one really believes him in the show. No one really believes in him except Betty, you know? So anyway, anyway, so yeah, I would say like, sex is like a coping mechanism, but clearly it ain't working so well if he still feel all empty inside. Anyway, sorry. And then I wanted to say that it's funny because like he never really realizes this. Like he doesn't realize the effect he has on the woman, and I mean like in a bad way, like that he leaves them with like kind of like an emotional gap, in the case of Amanda, at least, like so it was either some of them or most of them brought up feelings for him, and was thinking like, oh, is he gonna give me flowers? Is he gonna leave me a note? Is he gonna ask me out again? Some of them were cool with it, and some of them like genuinely did like him as a human being and genuinely wanted to see him again, right? And he doesn't realize like the emotional gaps that he leaves in his wake in his quest for feeling something, feeling worthy, feeling connected to people, right? And so it's really funny because then later on in the series, this girl, I forget what her name is, right? But I think she speaks Spanish too, so he really look. Actually, we don't even need to talk about the. We don't even need to talk about that part. Sorry. Anyway, just look. It's just another girl who's quote unquote exotic to him. Like we don't even need to go into that part and how. Yeah. But anyway, there's a woman who sees him like for who he is, like just like obsessed with sleeping with women, right? He's just obsessed. And she's like, I can't use this. So she literally like runs the long game on him, runs a whole con on him, from like a meet cute to like dating to like something like that. It gets pretty serious, right? It gets pretty serious to the end, right? But it turns out she's just using him to do her book launch, and it's like how to get a ring in 30 days, something like that. Like, like how it's like, oh, do a time pressure, do a meet cute, show him what he can't have, like let him have like a teeny like sneak peek, but not the whole thing. You see what I'm saying? Like she really mastered like the push and pull game. She's like, yeah, I know what man want. Like she's very much like I would say kind of like femme fatale type character, but she's definitely on like the side of woman empowerment though. But sorry, I'm getting off track. I don't mind the classification. I'm just saying like her character is very much like in her sexual power as a woman, and she uses it to her advantage, and she runs like a woman-led and woman-owned company. Anyway, what I'm saying is she plays him at his own game, right? They go to the big TV reveal, and he's like, yeah, I'm in love with her, like I'm gonna marry her, right? And then she pulls out her book, and she's like, see everyone? See, like I managed to like con the son of this, like the magazine CEO, whatever, and like how to get a guy or like how to get a ring in 30 days, right? And then he's so embarrassed, he's so torn, like gut-wrenching, whatever, because she built up all this thing to where he's actually truly in love with her, or at least he feels he is, just so you know. And then she's like, oh, like, are you upset? And she's like, oh, I just do what you've been doing to women all along. Like, well, how does it feel like to get a taste of your own medicine? And he's like, or whatever. I don't know. I don't remember. But I'm just saying, like, it's so ironic that, like, even though that's his crutch, he doesn't realize how much he's hurting other people. And I'm not going to say hurt people. I'm not going to say that. You know what? Because that phrase is so inadequate. Because even if you're hurt, you don't have to hurt other people. You can be hurt. You can examine yourself, and you can resolve not to spread that hurt. So it's not as simple as that. Don't come over here in the comments saying that, or you're going to piss me off. Anyway, he's just like a really good character study for that last video I did. So